Hello, I'm Brian, and I am the Theoretical Gamer. In this video, I'm going to give you an elevator pitch for a campaign idea that you can pick up and run with. It's pretty bare bones, it's pretty basic, but it's a cool idea that I thought other people might enjoy hearing about, and it would be fun. It would be fun to do. Now, the best way to describe this campaign is to describe how I came about with the idea. The idea came from two sources. The first source was a general dissatisfaction with the setting as written for the D20 Modern Urban Arcana book. Now, the thing about Urban Arcana is I loved the concept. I like D20 Modern. I like the idea of putting magical stuff in the modern world. I like the idea of fantasy races like elves and dwarves and drow and ogres, like running around like wearing trench coats and carrying guns. But the Urban Arcana book, the setting as written, really left me flat. It is our world, but supernatural stuff has just started showing up for some reason. But the average person can't see it. They just sort of see these creatures as ordinary people for some reason. But the players can, if they're not supernatural themselves, can see the truth for some reason. It's really left kind of vague. It's not very interesting in my opinion. And it's obvious, it's like whenever you create, like let's add magic to the modern world, you always have to come up with some kind of reason why the world stays more or less the same. You know, why everything doesn't change according to, you know, because of the addition. So, and their reasoning behind it just left me flat. Beyond that, I just love the concept. I love the advanced classes that they gave for various, various magic type stuff. It's pretty cool. The other inspiration for my setting is a webcomic. I'm a webcomic fan, and there is one out there called Flaky Pastry. The name is kind of a non sequitur, and it's kind of a whimsical, lighthearted, humorous comic about, well, modern day elves, dwarves, like halflings, humans, whatever, living in the modern world. It centers around three young women, a goblin, an elf, and a don't call her a cat girl, living together in an apartment. And it's done very whimsically and lighthearted, but all of a sudden it occurred to me, why couldn't this could easily be used for a more serious setting. So what I came up with is The Valley. The Valley is a D&D world, but instead of set in a D&D style world, but instead of being set in medieval times, it's advanced to the modern day, and it is very much like the modern day of our world, right? Hey, if a medieval, if D&D can be full of medieval trappings, like, well, then the Valley can be full of modern day trappings. Cars, the internet, airplanes, trains, cool stuff like that. All the modern day stuff that you would imagine being in the modern world is in the Valley. Now, I put it in the Valley because it's a good setting. The center would be Valley City, which is kind of like the big New York City center, cultural center of the world. It's where everything happens, and it's the cultural center. It's probably geographically located so that you can get to it pretty easily. There's probably a river running by it or through it, and which is the location of the Valley is that it's near a lot of deep woods. So you have elves. It's near a lot of mountains. So you have dwarves. And then if you go in the mountains and go down, you get drow. And there's probably all kinds of border disputes and all kinds of arguments over turf that you don't even hear about on the surface. And of course there's all the other races like goblins and Aasimar and tieflings and cool stuff like that. And it's a cosmopolitan city, and all these races are bumping into each other and off of each other. And there's probably like parts of the city like Goblin Town where all the goblins live, and all in all, you get to have your all the coolness of the modern day world, and have your fantasy cake and eat it too. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. You said, Brian, didn't you just create Shadowrun? The answer is, no, I didn't. Shut up. Shadowrun is a very specific setting. It's got a lot of baggage with it. It's got a lot of history. It's really its own thing by this point. And besides, I honestly believe that system is important. I kind of like the leveling of D&D style games. I kind of like the idea that these things are can be important, that they can matter. And some people will say, well, you know, it's hard to immerse yourself in a game when you're constantly thinking about leveling up. And I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I think that when you're in a game, you're totally in character and you're part of the story and you're in the moment. And then when you're out of game, between games, you're looking at your character sheet and saying, oh man, 2 more levels, I get this power. You know, if I take this feat, I'll be able to do this. The two are not mutually exclusive. You can do both. The one big question of the Valley is, what do I do with it? Well, that's a problem with all these kind of games, these modern day type things. And D&D has certain assumptions. You are going to create a party of adventurers who have the skills necessary to form an adventuring group of exploration and dungeon crawling. Shadowrun is similar. You are Shadowrunners. Some games have those assumptions. And, well, it's kind of like, but then you get other games. It's like there's a GURPS setting called Transhuman Space, which is this wonderfully, beautifully detailed setting about 100 years in the future. And the common question is, this is wonderful. What do I do with it? And the answer is, when you create the game, you're going to have to make a decision. Are you monster hunters working for the government? Probably, you know, are you cops? Or are you 3 female player character detectives who are given their cases by an anonymous billionaire speaking over a speakerphone? Come up with whatever you want. Anyways, I'd love to hear if anyone likes this idea. If you think it's trite, if it's like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea, I never thought of it. If you're curious, you can look for the comic Flaky Pastry. I have nothing to do with it. It's by a guy writing under the name of Falangard. I'll put a link. D20 Modern and Urban Arcana. You can get, if you don't have a copy of those, you could probably find them. Or you can go to the Wizard site and get the system reference document if you don't mind, you know, plain black text on white background. If you don't mind no pictures or no fancy formatting, you can get it for free. You probably won't be able to find it from their main site, but you can do a Google search for D20 Modern SRD. Link below. Anyway, that's my pitch. I'd be happy to hear what you do with it. Thank you very much and good evening.